The anime I am going to recap today is a very classic funny harem anime, in which there is a very special female knight. She not only has a sexy body but is also a masochist. When other knights are trying to dodge the enemy's attacks, she is enjoying the feeling of being attacked. Even the feeling of being bullied by the dead-lost protagonist can make her joyful, and hence, she falls in love with the protagonist. What more funny things will happen between the female knight and the protagonist? Let's get it revealed. The main protagonist is named Kazuma. A few months ago on his way home, he saw a girl about to get into a car accident. He soon rushed up and pushed her away, but he died. Unexpectedly, he came to a strange space and a woman showed up in front of him. She turns out to be a goddess named Aqua, who is responsible for guiding the dead young man. There were two choices for Kazuma. He could either let the soul go directly to heaven or be reborn to venture into the fantasy world. Aqua highly recommended he choose the fantasy world, and Kazuma eventually agreed to it. The good thing was that Kazuma could take one thing with him to the fantasy world, and Kazuma pointed his finger at Aqua. As the new goddess of guidance appeared, Aqua had no choice but to go to the fantasy world with Kazuma. The first thing they do is to go to the Novice Village's Adventurers Guild to register their identities. Their adventure life in this fantasy world starts here. Kazuma realizes that their mission is to defeat the Demon King in this world, or they'll be trapped here forever. So they decide to take tasks in Adventurers Guild, and their first task is to kill 5 giant frogs. Since Kazuma has no combat experience, he gets chased around by the giant frog. Aqua is no better than Kazuma and even gets swallowed by the giant frog. Fortunately, Kazuma takes this opportunity to kill the giant frog. Aqua is not convinced and tries to attack another giant frog, but unfortunately she has low attack power, so she once again gets swallowed by a frog. Kazuma takes the chance and kills another giant frog. In the evening, they go back to the Novice Village. After a busy day of fighting, they only killed 2 giant frogs, so they decide to recruit teammates. However, only a dull-headed girl comes over a few days later. The girl is named Megumin, who claims herself to be an archwizard and can use supreme magic. Afterward, Kazuma takes Megumin with him to kill the giant frogs, because the top-level magic takes a long time to cast. Aqua takes the lead to attack the giant frog to buy time for Megumin. Not long after, the powerful magic falls from the sky, shattering the giant frog in an instant. As Kazuma gets excited about it, he finds Megumin falling to the ground. It turns out that every time she casts this magic, it will consume all of Megumin's magic power, so she can only cast this magic once a day, and this is the only magic she acquires. Seeing 2 giant frogs come out and swallow Aqua and Megumin into their mouths, Kazuma takes the opportunity to attack and kills 2 giant frogs. Although the battle is fierce, they finally complete it. When Kazuma back to the Novice Village after getting rewards, he gets promoted to level 4. At this moment, a female knight named Darkness shows up and wants to join his team. Such a beautiful knight's joining request makes Kazuma's heart beat fast, but soon he realizes that Darkness is a masochist. What's worse, Darkness never strives back during the fight. Just then, Darkness's best friend, a thief, shows up. She offers to teach her thief skills to Kazuma in exchange for a drink. Kazuma agrees delightedly because he has been planning on acquiring some adventure skills since he upgraded to level 4. The skill she's gonna teach is named Steal, with which the acquirer can randomly steal a valuable item from the enemy. At this moment, Megumin accidentally knows Darkness is a knight, and she decisively invites her to join in. Kazuma has no choice but to agree. The newly formed team then takes on tasks, but they find the tasks are either too easy or too difficult. It turns out that the Demon King's minions have been wandering around outside the village, so other monsters nearby are hiding. Therefore, they can only take a break. Megumin must cast the burst magic every day to be satisfied, so Kazuma will accompany Megumin to cast her magic in front of an abandoned castle outside the village, and take her back to the village as she gets exhausted. A year goes by like this. Meanwhile, the Demon King's man, a headless knight, appears outside the village. The abandoned castle which Megumin goes to attack every day turns out to be the headless knight's residence, and he can no longer stand the explosions in front of his place. At first, the headless knight only intends to warn Megumin to stop bombing his home, but Megumin ignores him and keeps doing it. As a result, the headless releases the cursed magic but gets stalled by Darkness. The headless knight instantly rushes back to the castle, leaving a warning that he will destroy the village if Megumin ever casts burst magic near his castle again. The good thing is that Aqua is good at healing spells and helps Darkness lift the curse. To pay off the debts, Aqua asks her teammates to take on tasks with her to earn money. She takes on the task of purifying the nearby river. As the goddess of water, Aqua can purify the water as long as she touches it, but there are crocodiles wandering in the river. So Kazuma borrows an iron cage to put Aqua in and drops it into the river. As soon as Aqua enters the water, she gets attacked by a large number of crocodiles. Though she completes the task, she is too scared to get out of the cage. Kazuma can only take the cage back to the village. Meanwhile, the Headless Knight shows up outside the village again. It turns out that Megumin still sneaks to cast the burst magic in front of the castle every day. The Headless Knight is so pissed off and decides to destroy the novice village. Seeing that there is no way to resolve the conflict, Aqua uses purification magic to attack the Headless Knight, who turns out to be an undead. Therefore, her attack causes no damage to the Headless Knight except for making him uncomfortable. The Headless Knight then summons an army to attack Aqua. At this moment, Kazuma thinks of a way. He asks Aqua to run with the army toward the Headless Knight and then asks Megumin to cast the burst magic to bombard the group of enemies. The army gets wiped out instantly. However, these attacks still can't cause damage to the Headless Knight. Darkness then steps forward to be a strong shield. Kazuma takes the opportunity to release the water magic he just acquired but gets dodged easily by the Headless Knight. But Kazuma also finds out that the Headless Knight may be afraid of water because he didn't dodge the previous attacks but the attack of water. So he asks the magicians in the novice village to attack the Headless Knight with water magic. At the critical moment, Aqua casts the strongest water spell, which directly summons a huge flood to attack the Headless Knight, while Kazuma takes the opportunity to steal the Knight's head. As the Headless Knight has lost his fighting power, Aqua uses the purification magic, defeating the Headless Knight completely. Kazuma's team has a great victory and gets rewarded with 300 million gold coins. However, because Aqua's powerful water magic caused a heavy loss to the city, they'll have to compensate 340 million gold coins. Their team now owes 40 million instead. Owing so much money, the squad has to take on more tasks to make money. After screening, Kazuma takes the task of crusading snow elves. These snow elves have little offensive power. Besides, 100,000 gold coins are rewarded for killing one. During the fight, Kazuma is curious why no one takes such a simple task. To accelerate the speed of the kill, Megumin uses the powerful burst magic but accidentally draws out the snow elf's master, the General of Winter. General of Winter is too strong to be defeated, and that's why nobody dares to take on the task. At the critical moment, Aqua remembers that General Winter is very forgiving. As long as they plead for forgiveness sincerely and admit their mistakes, General Winter will definitely let them go. However, Masochist Darkness refuses to admit defeat because she wants to be abused in the fight with General Winter. Seeing Darkness is about to be killed, Kazuma saves her, but he got killed by the General of Winter. Kazuma's soul once again comes to the space where a new goddess appears in front of him. Since Kazuma has already died in the fantasy world, he has to reincarnate this time. After all this time, Kazuma has already concluded a deep friendship with his three teammates. Just as tears flood his eye, he hears the voice of Aqua. It turns out that Aqua, who is good at healing spells, uses the resurrection magic to bring Kazuma back to life. After so many battles, Kazuma finds that they lack a major output skill, so Kazuma decides to learn the magic from the city's witch, Wiz, that can absorb the enemy's physical and magical power. Aqua doesn't really like Wiz because of her race. When Wiz is teaching Kazuma, Aqua secretly attacks Wiz, causing Wiz to be weak. Just then, someone comes to ask Wiz to help expel the evil spirits in their castle. Since Wiz is weak now, Kazuma's team takes on the task. After a night of working, they finally disperse the evil spirits in the castle. Peaceful days do not last long. This day outside the city appears a giant destroyer, which is said to be a violent ancient weapon. Wherever it passes through, the area will be destroyed. To save the city, the Adventurers Guild gathers all the adventurers in the city. Kazuma's team also participates in this battle. At the critical moment, Darkness blocks the gate with her body. Aqua also releases the strongest purification magic and lifts Destroyer's protective boundary. Megumin teams up with the city's witch, Wiz, to release the most powerful burst magic and crushes Destroyer in one fell swoop. But Destroyer sets into self-destruct mode. If it explodes, the city will be completely destroyed. Darkness has decided to protect the people and rushes to the Destroyer, which touches other adventurers. They decide to work together to find the core of Destroyer, the Corona Stone, to stop its explosion, and soon find it inside Destroyer. At this moment, Wiz has run out of her magic power, so she unleashes the skill of absorbing to absorb Kazuma's magic power, and finally releases the magic to transfer the Corona Stone out of Destroyer, successfully stopping its self-destruction. Just when everyone thinks they are saved, the Destroyer starts to heat up, and if not stopped, the entire city would be burned to ashes. Kazuma wants Megumin to cast the burst magic to destroy the Destroyer, but she has run out of her magic power. At this critical moment, Kazuma absorbs Aqua's magic power and transfers it to Megumin. By this way, Megumin casts the strongest burst magic ever and ruins the Destroyer completely. Afterward, a knight was sent to Kazuma from a distant kingdom. Kazuma thinks it is because he defeated the Destroyer and is about to get rewarded, but to be told that he has committed treason. It turns out that the Corona Stone happened to drop on the landlord's territory and ruined his castle, so the knight was sent to arrest him. Just when Kazuma is desperate, his companions split up. Megumi attracts the attention of the enemy, while Aqua takes Kazuma to escape. Aqua first throws a needle into the prison and asks Kazuma to unlock the lock and escape, but she doesn't know that the prison uses combination locks, and the needle is useless. The next night, Aqua arrives as scheduled. This time she throws in a saw and asks Kazuma to cut open the iron railing of the prison window. She also thinks she is clever that she brings Kazuma a box used to stand higher. Unfortunately, the window is too small for the box to fit in at all. Now Kazuma can do nothing but wait for interrogation. The prosecutor Senna takes out a magic bell that can see through lies. It will make a sound as soon as someone lies. Kazuma explains that his recent battle with Destroyer was to save the townspeople, and the magic bell does not make a sound, which makes the prosecutor Senna finally believe that Kazuma is not a bad person. But in the end, Senna has to confirm whether Kazuma is an undercover agent sent by the Demon King, and whether he has communicated with the Demon King's servants. Kazuma immediately denies it, but the magic bell still rings. Just then, Kazuma remembers that Wiz, who runs a shop in the city, was an officer of the Demon King's army. Soon, Kazuma is brought to trial because he is suspected of being a spy sent by the Demon King's army. Senna finds a lot of witnesses who give testimonies against Kazuma. All the evidence points to Kazuma's guilt. Seeing that Kazuma is about to be sentenced to death, Darkness steps forward. It turns out that Darkness is from a notable family, and she takes out a necklace representing her family to guarantee that Kazuma is not a bad person. Eventually, Darkness makes a deal with the Great Lord, in which she agrees to any of the Great Lord's demands in exchange for Kazuma's life and freedom. Kazuma is rescued, but Darkness has to leave for the Great Lord's castle to fulfill his request. In addition, Kazuma has a huge debt to compensate for the destruction of the Great Lord's domain, and their home is completely empty by the soldiers who break in. Just then, Prosecutor Senna comes to them. It turns out that not long ago, Megumin deliberately released explosion magic near the town to attract the attention of the guards in order to rescue Kazuma, resulting in the hibernating monster's giant toads waking up. So Senna demands them to clean up the mess. However, without Darkness's blocking in the front, they fight in a flurry. All the girls are held in the toads' mouths, including Senna, as they are in danger. A girl named Yunyun appears at the critical moment and defeats these toads. Soon after, Kazuma and his teammates come to Wiz's shop to sell some loot to pay off their debts, where they meet Yunyun. The reason why Yunyun always looks for Megumin is that she wants to be friends with Megumin, but she doesn't know how to get close to friends, so she keeps asking for a duel with Megumin. Just then, Aqua discovers a crystal ball that can make Yunyun and Megumin's relationship get better, so she asks the two girls to unleash magic into the crystal ball where the memories of various shames of the two are presented. It turns out that this crystal ball deepens the friendship by exposing the embarrassing memories of the girls. Seeing her embarrassment being exposed, Megumin smashes the crystal ball in a fit of rage. A few days have passed. Since Darkness has not returned, Kazuma doesn't go fight with monsters. But working in the city doesn't bring them much income, and they are starving. Just then, Kazuma happens to hear a dungeon has appeared nearby, so he plans to take his teammates to the dungeon adventure to see if they can find some treasures. As Megumin can only cast explosion magic once a day, she can't help much with the adventure. Kazuma decides to leave Megumin at the gate of the dungeon and takes Aqua into the dungeon. They then encounter an evil wizard in the dungeon, who was once a handsome young man. He turned himself into an ageless and undead wizard to protect his lover. After his lover died, he took his lover's body and built this dungeon, guarding it ever since. The undead can't end his life, but now with Aqua's help, he can finally end his life and reunite with his lover. Aqua draws a magic array in the room to purify the corpses of the wizard and his lover. After that, Kazuma and Aqua return to town with the gold and jewels left by the wizard. They are very happy and celebrate in the tavern of the city. But Aqua gets dizzy with her success and spends all the money buying wines, inviting the residents of the city to eat and drink. When they return to the castle worrying about how to make a living, Darkness comes back. She tells them that the Great Lord didn't molest her but asked her to go on a blind date with his son. Darkness's father also supports the marriage, but Darkness doesn't want to get married, so she comes to ask for her teammate's help. Kazuma thinks that if Darkness gets married, he can get rid of this masochist teammate, so he proposes the idea that Darkness should pretend to agree to the blind date, and then they will find a chance to sabotage the marriage. But Kazuma's real intention is to secretly facilitate the marriage of Darkness and the son of the Great Lord. Darkness is back to her castle with Kazuma and Aqua, who pretend to be Darkness's butlers. After some dressing, they receive the son of the Great Lord, who has pure eyes and a handsome appearance, but Darkness does not look at him at all. In order to make the son of the Great Lord flinch, Darkness exposes her wildness, tearing her dress and initiating a duel with the Lord's son. Knowing himself no match for Darkness, the Lord's son admits defeat, giving up marrying Darkness. By this time, Darkness has already been obsessed with the battle, asking Kazuma to duel with her. Kazuma first uses the water magic to make Darkness drenched, and then freezes her with ice skill, which Darkness enjoys very much. To win the duel, Kazuma makes a bet with Darkness that if he wins, he will make Darkness fulfill a very excessive request. As Darkness thinks of how Kazuma will insult her, she deliberately loses the duel and faints excitedly. Just then, Senna comes over with Megumin. It turns out that a large number of monsters have appeared near the town recently, which come from the dungeon that Kazuma and Aqua explored not long ago. It is then revealed that the magic array Aqua left in the wizard's room is permanent. Kazuma guesses the dungeon monsters don't dare to approach the magic formation, and thus can only walk out of the dungeon. Therefore, Kazuma and his comrades decide to go destroy the magic array in the dungeon. They find a strange man in the dungeon with a black and white mask, who claims to be Vanir, a servant of the Demon King. The Demon King sent him to investigate the recent disappearance of the Demon King's servant Verdia, the Headless Knight. When Vanir passed by this dungeon, he found there was no owner. As he also wants to have a dungeon of his own, he plans to occupy it, but because of the divine array, he can't get close to the room. Now that they have encountered the Demon King's servant, a battle breaks out. Kazuma and Darkness work together to knock down Vanir, but Vanir's main body is actually the black and white mask. He uses his skill to make Darkness wear the mask and forcibly controls her body. Fortunately, Darkness's willpower is strong. She forcibly controls her body to keep still, allowing Megumin to use the powerful explosion magic to attack her, which defeats Vanir. This battle dispels Senna's suspicion that Kazuma is from the Demon King's army, and Darkness also recovers through Aqua's healing spell. Kazuma not only has all of his debts relieved, but also receives a large amount of bonuses. Soon after, Kazuma discovers that Vanir is not dead. He does not want to be the servant of the Demon King, so after being injured, he joins Wiz in the city and becomes her employee. Now that Vanir has turned to the right path, Kazuma won't hold on to the past conflict. Vanir is very talented in business. After hearing that Kazuma is from another world, he offers Kazuma to design some practical tools from his world, which Vanir will sell. Vanir can tell the tools Kazuma offers are of great use, so he intends to buy the intellectual property for a hefty fee or pay Kazuma a hefty monthly fee. He gives Kazuma some time to think it over and leaves. After that, Kazuma thinks as he's gonna be very rich in the future, he can hire heroes to help him defeat the Demon King instead of fighting by himself. As for Darkness, she starts to get excited as Kazuma loses his fighting spirit and becomes more and more like a loser, which is exactly Darkness's dream lover. At this time, Megumin suggests that they go to the distant hot spring town to relax. Kazuma immediately agrees to it as soon as he hears about the hot spring. So the team follows a tour group on a journey to the hot spring town, and Kazuma calls Wiz to go with them. On their way, they encounter an attack from ostrich monsters. Kazuma discovers that the ostrich monsters are attracted to the special material of Darkness's armor. So Kazuma ties Darkness to the back of the carriage with a rope and drags her all the way. In this way, Kazuma lures the ostrich monsters into a nearby cave, and Megumin uses explosion magic to eliminate these ostrich monsters. But the crisis doesn't end here. At night, the nearby zombies are attracted by the special aura emanating from Aqua. Fortunately, these zombies are relatively low in level and are easily purified by Aqua. But Wiz, who is an undead, gets injured in this purification. They then arrive in the hot spring town safely, which was the headquarters of the church sheltered by Aqua before, and the residents here are all believers of Axis Church. As a goddess, Aqua likes her base camp so much that she takes Megumin to her church headquarters to have fun, while Kazuma and Darkness take Wiz to rest in the hotel. When they are wandering around the city, they find that the church believers are crazy. Wherever they go, there are people trying to convince them to join the church. Kazuma tells Aqua that believers here are so crazy that they are unlike normal people, hoping Aqua, as a goddess worshipped by believers, can give some instructions to change the crazy behavior of believers. Aqua doesn't agree at all, saying that the more fanatical the believers are, the more energy the goddess can get. Kazuma can only take Megumin and Darkness back to the inn first, and when he hears that Wiz went to the mixed bathing hot spring, Kazuma is so excited that he goes to the mixed bath immediately. When Kazuma finishes bathing, he finds Aqua crying in Wiz's arms. It turns out that since Aqua, the goddess of water, has the ability to purify the water, she purified the hot spring water into ordinary hot water and got kicked out. Though feeling down, Aqua noticed a detail that the manager said that the water quality here had deteriorated recently. Aqua suspects that the upstream water source has been destroyed by the Demon King's army in order to cut off their church's financial source. So she decides by herself to tell the residents of the town that the Demon King is destroying the water source, and she claims to be the goddess Aqua they worship, but none of the residents believes her. They even take Aqua as a witch who came to destroy their town after knowing she turned the spring water into ordinary hot water. Kazuma can only leave the hotel with Aqua and the others, but Aqua is still very concerned about the poison of the water source, so they secretly come to the upstream water source. And sure enough, there is someone polluting the water source. Wiz recognizes the man who destroys the water as a servant of the Demon King's army, the deadly poison slime, Hans. Kazuma thinks it's gonna be easy to deal with a slime, but Wiz tells them that as a servant of the Demon King's army, Hans is a terrible monster with a powerful body and a venom that corrodes everything. Kazuma and Aqua flee as soon as they hear this, but on the way down the mountain, they meet the residents who are pursuing Aqua. Aqua then thinks that the followers of the church will be dead if Hans is allowed to poison the water, so she decides to return to the water source to fight Hans. Kazuma returns with his teammates again. He suddenly comes up with a question. How come the manager responsible for protecting the water source didn't stop Hans? Hans then states that the manager was eaten by him, which infuriates Wiz, and she uses ice magic to freeze Hans's hand. In Wiz's mind, monsters can fight adventurers because of their different standpoints, but they must not attack innocent humans. Wiz's attack also completely infuriates Hans, who finally reveals his slime form. The poisonous water disgorging from the body pollutes the nearby water source. Aqua rushes to the water source to purify it desperately. Just then, the residents who arrive also see it, and they finally believe Aqua's words that the Demon King's servant is destroying the water source. Everyone unites to attack Hans, but Hans is too strong for them to defeat, and Wiz can't freeze the huge Hans. If Megumin directly attacks Hans with explosion magic, his body will be torn and contaminate the nearby water. At this point, Kazuma notices that the manager who was eaten by Hans not long ago has turned into a skeleton in Hans's body, seemingly not yet thoroughly digested. Kazuma then comes up with an idea. He makes himself the bait to lure Hans to a nearby pit, and gets devoured by Hans to turn into a skeleton. He directs Megumin to cast explosion magic that completely destroys Hans' huge flesh, and Wiz seizes the opportunity to freeze Hans's shrunken body. Hans's huge flesh then collapses due to the shattering of the ice, but Wiz also overdraws all her mana and passes out. But Hans has not died yet. He crawls out of his main body from the ice. At the critical moment, Aqua shows up with the faith power of the believers. Aqua bursts out with amazing power and finally defeats Hans with one punch. After the battle, Aqua regains Kazuma's physical body, because Aqua's last attack to defeat Hans was too powerful. Her divine power purified the nearby water sources at the same time, causing all the hot spring water in the city to become ordinary hot water. The hot spring town no longer exists, so they are driven out of the city by the residents. The Demon King's plan of cutting off the financial source somehow still gets completed. Kazuma and his teammates make their way back to the town, leading Wiz in Vonner's care. On their way, they run into Yun, who has come to challenge Megumin to a duel. Though their journey has been full of difficulties, Kazuma and his teammates have gained many companions, and they are now one step closer to their battle against the true Demon King. This is the end of the story. The characters of this anime are really interesting. It has Kazuma, the timid and lecherous protagonist, Darkness, a masochist who likes being beaten up, Aqua, who is greedy for money but is not so smart, and Megumin, the arch-wizard who is simple-minded. They have different personalities, but they share the same belief, which is never to give up on their teammates. What's your favorite character in this anime? Comment below to tell me. Well, today's video ends here. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!